Now, one of the best car shows around is only a mile or two from my house at the Whiskey Cafe. I have gone there for years. Many times I've shot video and shared it. This was one of the best nights that I've ever gone. It was a really, really nice night weather-wise. The turnout was great. And of course, there's nothing nicer and more fun than looking at some highly polished, highly detailed, custom, one-of-a-kind cars. Now, there's something, I guess, for everybody at a car show like this. I know some of my friends, like John Pothier, are into vets. My brother-in-law, Roy, has a collection of Corvettes. And our good friend Rich Jacobone has a 62 Pontiac. So there's always something we're looking for. Karen had a Le Mans. And of course, I had a 55 Chevy that so sorry I sold. And historic plates. Now, I collect antique motorcycles. I have 4 historically registered bikes, 3 modern bikes. There were a few bikes there tonight, not many. And it's basically about cars. And every time I think about it, I see a car, and it doesn't matter what year or what model it is, but it'll bring back a memory, mostly a good memory of when, I guess the thing that drives all people to want to have a custom car is if they had one when they were younger, or in my case, if you didn't have one. You couldn't afford one. And later on in life, you get your house paid off and you go and splurge on it. But anyway, what I think is really the only downside of the whole car show scene that I can think of is sometimes they're playing loud music. The music's fine. It's really loud, but if you're trying to shoot video, you can't hear yourself talk. You can't hear somebody asking questions. So I usually just, in this case, when I'm doing this, I just do a voiceover of the cars now. My brother-in-law Roy had pretty much this exact car. He had more than one of them, in fact. 60 Chevy. Again, I look back and I think, oh my God, when I was in high school, if you had one of these puppies, maybe with a 348, oh man, you were the king of the hill. You were just unbelievable. Anyway, and of course, where I went to high school, there were a few kids that did have nice cars, but most of us had $50, I call them $50 cars, if you paid for them at all. And we used to work on them, and we used to do our own Bondo work and priming, and it's embarrassing, thank God nobody has pictures of these cars. Our body work was not like bitchin' rides, that's for sure. And I look at the paint now. I've been doing custom painting my whole life on motorcycles and model planes, and one of the things I enjoy at any car show, I love to look at the paint. And I love to look at some of the styling. Some of the people have unique paint jobs, or they'll do unique colors, one of a kind. And it's very interesting to me, but there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. I know a few people that go to the car shows all the time. It's always good hanging out with them, finding out the latest and greatest. And they always have these cute little dioramas under the hood of God knows what, and little models of their cars and Continental kits. Now, I'm 79, and I remember Continental kits, and I remember fender skirts on cars, and I remember doing body work with lead. They go way back. But nowadays, it's great to see them blended in with the modern cars, the modern motors, and the crate motors, and all of it. There's just so many things to see. And if you have a love of one thing or another, now a good example is a friend of mine, Michelle, has a Camaro, a 68 Camaro. I'm sure when she looks at car show videos or goes to the car show in Bear Mountain, they're basically, there's a lot of things that Camaro owners can share. And it's just, my biggest thing here is I always look around, and I shouldn't say, maybe there won't be one tonight, but there are people that have a car that I had. I'll tell this quick story. I had a 66 Chevy 2. It was pretty much a copy of Bill Grumpy Jenkins' car. 327, 350 horse, 4-speed. No accessories, no radio, post in the window. And it didn't have a single accessory except the motor. And I had it for about 2 years. Drag raced it, street raced it, did everything. One night it was stolen. It was stolen by a police officer's son who, rather than me pressing charges, bought me a brand new 68. And so I got a free car out of the deal, but I still love my 66 better. And Karen had Volkswagens, and that was not a stock Volkswagen, by the way. And the older cars, the pre-50 cars or the early 50 cars with the fender skirts and the long pipes on the side. And oh God, I just get a tear in my eye thinking about this. Another quick story. The first car I ever had, I was 12 years old. Yes, 12. And my Uncle Henry, God bless his soul, he bought a new car, and he had a long piece of farm property right near Teterboro Airport. And he said, if I want to learn to work on cars, here's your chance. Because the car still ran, burned a little oil. And he says, you can drive up and down my property, which is about a mile long. It's a long stretch of property. And there was a dirt road there, and I wore out the dirt road. After school, I would bring my friends over. We'd sit in the car, play the radio until the battery went dead, then have to take the battery out and go charge it and go buy gas in a 5-gallon can and then go sit in the car again. But from that experience, I learned how to work on cars. And I learned how to change plugs and the whole things. You replace a radiator hose, the easy stuff on a car. And that led me to a life of enjoying working on mechanical things. And when I had an airplane, I used to work on the airplane, of course, with somebody who had a license supervising it. But I love working on cars. I love working on motorcycles. I have an over 100-year-old house that I did almost all the renovation on. And as I go through the show, I wonder, a lot of people do enjoy doing their own work. And some people, they retire, they have the money, and they pay somebody else to do it. And they're both just great. In fact, at this point in my life, I'm always looking out for somebody that's got a 66 Chevy 2 with that 350 horse engine. And Karen tells me I'm crazy for thinking about it, but every once in a while I see one. The problem is they want incredible money once they're restored, and it's just out of my price range, out of my pay grade. But I do enjoy going to the car shows. Now, it would be really wonderful if they didn't have the loud music playing, that you could listen to the background noise here. And when I was in high school, I just like to tell little funny stories. A friend of ours who had an Oldsmobile just like this, and it wasn't terrible. It was in pretty nice shape. It wasn't a convertible. And he decided he was going to prime it. And we all went over to his house one day, and he had a whole case of spray cans. And if you knew the mess we made out of that car, we were taking razors and scraping the paint off of windows. We didn't backmask anything, trying to get Brillo and take the paint off the chrome. And I often wonder how many people started off their career in custom car work doing something like that. Because once you start doing it and you get the bug to do it, here, we're right by Teterboro Airport. Every time a jet flies over, you can't hear yourself talk. And I had a 55. The 55 Chevy is another funny story. I actually was coming back from the drags, from Island Dragway, where I just was recently, and posted a video of how many years later I hadn't been there. And I went back, thanks to Jim Skinner, and enjoyed like nothing else. 6 of us went to the drags. And it was it's a video that's posted on a channel. And just a quick memo here. If you go to this channel and you're enjoying this video, go to playlists, because the channel has over 3,000 videos. I think it's almost 3,200 now. And if you go to the playlist, you can put in the destinations. Destinations has all of the car shows, the drag racing, all of that kind of stuff on it, in between the motorcycle videos. So don't want to talk about that too much, but most people know how to do a search in a channel. This is a very big channel with a lot of videos. But anyway, Jim Skinner, again, was great. He arranged the whole thing that I could get into the press box and all of this stuff, get up close and personal to the cars, and it was great meeting the owner. And we had a great time. Island Dragway is still in business, by the way. And if you have nostalgia in drag racing, it's a great place. It's basically an hour from my house. I think next year we're going to go more than once. And we are enjoying every minute of going to car shows, drag racing, and we actually have some air shows coming up too. There's one coming up very soon, in fact. But anyway, beside the point. Back to the cars. And what I like to do whenever I go with Karen, there's certain cars she really likes, and she likes the Le Manses. And every time she sees one, she'll tell me, "Oh, yeah, I love the Le Mans. Oh, my car was so much fun." And look at the paint on that. You can see your reflection in it. And I look at it and I think, wow, when I had my '66 Chevy, there were a lot of them around. Well, you hardly see any at the car shows. I don't know why. And the right in on the block that I live on, there's a fella that has two restored Cadillacs that really look like you could put them right back in the showroom. And of course, he drives by all the time, and where we see him. And I guess people get caught up in one type of car or another. A Studebaker, I remember Studebakers, and this is a Volkswagen that did not have a Volkswagen engine in it. Very, very unique, cool car. I've seen him ride this on the street. What's really neat here at the Whiskey Cafe, you can just go, there's obviously the restaurant, the Whiskey Cafe has food. You can sit out there and eat a burger and watch the cars coming in, usually before 5 o'clock, and you can watch them leave. And when they leave, usually there's a few police officers hiding in the trees and whatever. But it's always fun. It's always a lot of fun. And this night just proved to be the perfect temperature. The wind wasn't blowing. It wasn't too hot or cold. Oh, Michelle, this looks pretty much like yours. I don't know if it's the same year or not. And I think Michelle's is a 396. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough to know which is which just by looking at them on a video, but and hers is yellow too. I think hers has a vinyl roof though. I'm not sure. We've had pictures of it on the channel here. The Camaro guys, they all seem to park together, and they all know all the finer details of being a Camaro owner. Too bad. Now, look at this close. Look at this close. That is absolutely one of my dream cars. And actually, it was for sale, except, again, out of my price range. Anyway, but there's the modern cars all seem to like the Mustangs and the whatever. That's the beauty of anything where there's a camaraderie. People that all have Corvettes, they all want to hang together. They all want to look at each other's engines and tires and whatever. When you go to a bike show, it's the same thing. Everybody wants to see who's got the oldest bike, the shiniest bike, or the most powerful bike, or whatever. And the problem is, I love all of it. I like to go to car shows and bike shows and air shows, and it's just not enough life. I just wish I had more time. And of course, I don't want to ever sacrifice the family time. I know some people do, and sometimes it comes back to bite you. But I like to do as many car shows, as many of anything I can do, even working on my own equipment. And this now I always, John Pothier has it. This is looking like something Karen would really love. So she didn't have the exact one, but it's something similar. And it seems like in our area of the country, there's a lot of Mustangs, a lot. And she looks at it, and she knows what year she had. That's not it, though. She's not here, so I can't ask her. And these are all GTOs anyway. But I think it's just a great way to spend an evening. I'm very big on anything I can do that I get a couple hours of exercise, that I enjoy the exercise. Of course, at 79, I want to stay fit as I possibly can. Look at this. Wow. Some of these cars, I don't even know, the history of them, or they always have the little placard out in front. It's got some nice pinstriping on there. I know Jim Skinner used to do pinstriping. Look at this old rod. Ooh. See, this I like. This, oh man, like the Fonzie car. Look, it's lowered, chopped, channeled, whatever. That's a beauty there. As I'm looking at the video, I pick up some of the things that sometimes when you're shooting video, you miss them. And having the headers that you can block them off, and then Of course, if you go out at night and nobody's around, you can just run out and unscrew the header caps. Ask me how I know about that. T-Bird. Oh, Karen loves T-Birds. Oh, every time we're at a show and there's a T-Bird, an old one, a 55, 56, gotta look it over. And but again, that's what I think is really interesting about any car show. No matter what type of car you like. Now see, this is a car, I think the paint on this, when I looked at this in person, I could tell this was a totally buffed out, hand buffed out, and detailed to the moon, and that was absolutely beautiful. That really, really impressed me. And there's some people, they like the rat look. The rat, I don't know what the rat rod or whatever. Look at the motor, beautiful. Beautiful chrome. Oh, God. It just makes you sad that you don't have 12 days in a week. Now, another funny story, and this is the kind of thing I think is really sad if you're into custom cars. When I was younger, you could go within a couple miles of my house. There were several places that did chrome plating and polishing and anodizing. George Venturini, the late George Venturini, owned an anodizing shop. And right on the street where his shop was, there were chrome plating places. And it was no big deal if you had a car to pull off the valve covers and clean them up, bring them down, have them chromed for a few bucks. I don't know that there's any place left anywhere, not near where I live in the state of Jersey, that you can get reasonably priced chrome plating done. I don't even know if you can get it at unreasonable prices. But obviously, because of the pollution laws and whatever, the Save the Planet laws, getting parts chrome plated is, now I don't know about in cars, but I know in motorcycles, when you want to get a couple of parts plated, it can be a fortune. I don't know about other parts of the country, though. A split window vet. John, I hope John's getting to watch this. I know John's got a 62. He did all the restoration himself, all the paint, all the custom features, and all the body work. And wow, I know when you do it yourself, there's a lot of satisfaction, a really lot of satisfaction, in fact. I mean, when I do a motorcycle, even the satisfaction I get out of doing a custom motorcycle and doing all the paint work, it's hard to explain to people that don't do their own work. But it's okay if you don't, and it's okay if you got money, that's for sure. I wish I did. I wish I had that printing press that some of my friends seem to have, that like a toaster that pops up $20 bills. Anyway, there are a couple of motorcycles there. I'm not sure. Here's a historic registered Honda. I'm not sure they were even in the competition. There were a few bikes there, though, but nothing outstanding there. Nothing. Some nights it seems like there are a bunch of Harleys there. Some nights, a couple of these. Yeah, maybe they are in a competition. And I rode there on my GS Suzuki, and I didn't even put it in a competition. It's just no point because I wanted to leave when I wanted to leave, not when they gave out the trophies. So, or if I was even in contention. And who knows? It's hard to tell. But hey, 55 Chevy. It's hard for me to look at a 55 Chevy, whether it's bone stock, highly modified, or a drag race car, and not just have that feeling in the back of my mind. What if I was smart enough not to sell it? Oh my God, could I have had a lot of fun with it over the years. The neat thing about that I think is unique about a 55 is, for me, it fit right into the time that I was totally immersed in cars. And when I finally got it, it was my dream come true, and I had it for a couple of years, and the story of why I don't have it is sad. I thought I was Mr. Macho Man, and we live in a flood zone, and I went down under a bridge where it connects from Richfield Park to Leonia under the railroad tracks, and I thought it was about 6 inches of water, and it turned out to be 2 feet. And the car got stuck there in the dark. It stayed there for several hours, and it pretty much smelled like the Hackensack River when I towed it out. Got it back home, did the whole thing with draining the oil and taking the seats out, the rugs, putting everything out in the sun and everything. Did everything I could to get the smell of the river out of that car. Now, nowadays, I think I would have been smart enough to do something else, but what, in my youthful ways, I decided to heck with it. I just don't want to smell this car anymore. It was making me sick, and I put it up for sale. Gentleman bought it, and I thought, oh God, is he going to be sorry he bought this a couple of years later? And a month later, I came home from work, and the car was in my driveway. And I thought, oh man, I better go around the block. This guy is going to kill me. And he had his friends with him. And when I said, finally, I got to face the music. He's going to want his money back, or beat me up, or throw eggs at me or something. And what it was, he came back to tell me how much he loved the car. He says, and I had told him about the car being in the water. I didn't lie to him. He said, oh, no, that doesn't matter. I want a 55. And I says, but the smell, how are you going to get the smell out? And when I went back and looked at it and poked my head in to the open window, I could still smell it. Apparently he didn't smell it, but he loved the car. He was happy. He wanted me to see it, and he had it all polished up and everything. And to this day, I think that's the kind of funny story you just can't make up. You can't make it up even if you want to. So again, I apologize that the soundtrack that's on here is just loaded up with oldies music, and of course that's very typical of the car scene. And you just, if two people are standing next to each other and talking, you can't hear either one of them. So when you videotape, it actually comes out worse than it is in real life. So I've found the only way in certain cases is just to do a voiceover, tell some of my involvement with custom cars that I've had over the years, and hope I'm sharing stories with somebody that has similar stories, and tell me about the cars you've sold and you're sorry you sold. And I'm sure we all have, everybody I know has at least one story of something they sold and something they're really sad they're sorry they sold. And with motorcycles, it's even worse, because I have a GS 1100 in '82, and when I post up any video, that guaranteed at least one person's going to post a comment. I had it, I had the same one, I put this amount of miles, and I did this and did that, and I'm so sorry I sold it and bought bananas with the money. So typical. Anyway, and again, all of the cars, the paintwork even on the modern cars, if you look at a modern car that comes, the paint that comes on modern, all of the high-end cars, is just beautiful. I go back to the days of when we sprayed clear lacquer, especially if you did a metal flake job and you put you put on a bunch of lacquer coats, and then you had a wet sand that'll polish it all out with an electric drill. Now with orbital buffers and everything, well, it's just a whole different world. Anyway, looking back, I'm seeing there are quite a few bikes here, but again, this is not a motorcycle video. We have plenty of motorcycles on our channel. If you like motorcycles, search the channel for anything from restoration to anything that interests you. There are a lot of motorcycle videos. What do we got here? Triumph? Oh, a nice clean one. But again, this is basically a car show with a side order of Triumphs. Now, in my case, being 79 years old, everything like this hamburger thing coming out the window, it triggers a memory of something that happened in my lifetime. And I count myself as one of the luckiest people to ever live, because I lived in a wonderful time. I was actually born the day World War II ended. So I lived in a perfect time. If you liked automobiles, if you like, oh my God, look at this. There's a memory right there. Oh man, there was a time when I was in high school, the kids that were older than us had these cars, and they'd paint flames on them, and some of them could afford to have real paint on instead of primer, and they'd have gauges. It was always about who had the most gauges under the dashboard, and some of them weren't even hooked up. You just go buy gauges and put them under there. And the custom taillights. I remember putting a Dodge grill in a 55 Chevy and putting this grill into that, and a 52 that goes into a 68 this. That was so cool back then. Now, it could be that a lot of people that are showing the cars here, and I'm sure there are, they're my age, and that's what drives it. And the long pipes. Oh man, I remember that. Oh geez, there's just so many good memories. So unless you're Jay Leno, I guess you got to pick and choose your memories too. And Now, this is when Karen was looking at this car. She had told me at one time, and I don't remember. It was at the Whiskey Cafe. There was a guy with an old Buick. It was an old Buick, and it was restored to the moon, and it had a for sale sign. And Karen didn't understand. We weren't talking about a couple of $1,000s. This was a car that probably was 50 grand or more. And the guy let her sit in it and sit behind the wheel, and she's looking at me and she says, yeah, when you get done with motorcycling and you want to go back to cars, she doesn't understand. At 79, I still want to ride every day, but it could happen. It could happen. There's what I'm talking about, the custom grill. The grill from something that fits in something else. I believe that's a 54 Chevy grill. Maybe I'm wrong. But, oh my God, the memories. And everybody's got these little skulls on the dashboard. Dice. Look at this one. Ooh. Oh, man. The wide white walls and the paint. Because I'm a painter, the paint just blows me away when the amount of hours that go into getting that paint to look like that. And of course, there's always I call them the sleeper cars that look like they're totally stock until you open a hood, and then they have an Allison Spitfire engine in them or whatever. And the trophies that they give out. And again, I don't enter any of the competitions, but I think they do have a class for motorcycles. I'm not sure, but I basically just like to look at the cars. I like to get my exercise, and I like to share always an evening with Karen. So if any of you watching the video know who John Cafaro is, one of the Corvette designers, he's a very good friend of mine, and we flew model planes together for many, many years. He is on my channel also, not so much with cars, but with some of the model planes he built over the years and we competed with. And every time I see a Corvette, I think, ooh, he had a hand in the design of that. That's pretty cool. And look at this. Every time I look at this now, another side story, since I have to ramble on and on here, is my brother-in-law Roy. He was I believe, involved with the Corvette Collectors Club for many, many years. And he had a collection of Corvettes. And I don't know, he had a pace car. He had several of them. But at one point in time, my sister and Roy, when they were younger, both had matching 62 Vettes, pretty much the same exact car, in fact, as my good friend John Pothier has. And so when they would ride around in the Corvettes, I mean, these was when we were 20 years old, and they'd ride around with, the roof down and everything or whatever. Boy, we were so jealous. It makes me jealous to think if I had that 55 Chevy back here, and knowing what I know now about paint, I could have restored it to where it was either factory stock better or a custom color, or it's always spinning through my mind, always going through my mind. And some of the cars I don't really know much about. Some of these, I'm not sure if they're one-offs or Excaliburs or what. It looks like an Excalibur from here. Are they kit cars? Or my late friend Buddy Weeder built a kit Cobra with his son, and I was at his house one day and he showed me the album of, they must have had 1,000, this is a Gazelle, 1,000 pictures of him building the car. It took him 9 years. And I said, wow, what an enterprise that is to start. Now, I spend the whole winter restoring an older motorcycle, and I think I did something special. But some of these people, I'm sure, have spent more than 9 years on these, the same thing, too. And especially when we were at the drags, there were a lot of really, really beautiful custom cars, and the guys were racing them. So I'm sure a lot of people are involved in that, too. And again, it's the amount of money you have and the amount of time you're willing to spend. I'm limited on both, being 79. I'm getting long in the tooth. I know everybody know what that means. But I always have a dream that someday I'm going to find that 66 Chevy 2 with that engine. It's going to be that maroon color that Chevy made back then. Of course, I'd want it to be exactly the way the car I had, with the gold interior, the tan interior. and I can see the not the hearse shifter, the shifter that came with the car. I can feel it in my hand right now, and I can picture all of the. I made my own traction bars. I worked at a welding shop. I made my own traction bars, and the street racing was so much fun back then. Of course, all your friends. That's all we ever did was street race. Nobody could afford professional stuff. Nobody could afford to go to a speed shop and say, build me an engine. Nowadays, a lot of people, of course, they're later on in life. You just go build an engine. You just go buy one. But back in the day, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. I'm sure a lot of people watching a video that, if you're still watching a video after hearing me ramble all this while, maybe you have these kind of memories too, and maybe these are bringing back some memories. Now, one thing I wanted to mention somewhere in the video, a good friend of mine, Kent Tyser, we were model plane buddies for many, many, many years. He bought a Camaro, and to this day, I remember the day he got it, and we were talking on the phone, and this and that, and this and that. And he's from North Carolina. And he said, I'm going to take it to a speed shop, and I'm going to have this done to it and that done to it, and have this done it. And I didn't see him for a while, maybe a couple of years. And then we linked up by phone one day, and he says, hey, you want to see my car on YouTube? And he sent me to this channel where they do half-mile drag racing. They just want top speed. They're not doing time. And his car went 150 miles an hour. I said, oh. But, hey, talk about being jealous. None of my cars went 150 miles an hour. None of my bikes, well, the R1 probably goes there, but this just great memories. Oh, 55, this just makes me crazy. I feel like making a custom plate that says, don't sell me. And if you followed the channel for any amount of time, my channel's one of the oldest ones on YouTube. And I have a very eclectic channel because there's so many things in life that I enjoy. And it's only recently that I divided the channel up into playlists. Again, there's one for all the car stuff, the destinations. It's called Destinations. But there's world travel, and I have been pretty much all over the world, to Brazil and Europe and river cruises, Russia, among other things. And I've posted all those videos out on the channel because some people that enjoy watching the cars and seeing the cars also like world travel. Or maybe even if you're watching this and you're still watching it, listen to me ramble on. Maybe you like motorcycles too. You want to check out some of the motorcycles. I also have a model railroad in the attic of my house. I've posted videos of an O-gauge model railroad. It's not what you think it is. It's not trains under the Christmas tree. A pretty intense thing. And I've had it 26 years. Look at a model like, oh my God, that's so cute. I got to get, you know what I'm thinking after watching this video? I'm going to try to get one of those plastic models of the 55 Chevy that I had, build it up and paint it exactly like the car I had. Mine was turquoise and white. just because I don't think I'm going to be getting the real thing very soon. Look, and I remember, you know what's unique about a 55 too? I remember, even when back in the day, I remember how big the steering wheel was. Holy mackerel! I remember getting in a car and going, "Wow, that's a big steering wheel! Wow, look at it! Look at the flames on this! Oh my God, they are awesome!" And we have a lot of other car shows in the area. I'm going to be going to more in the future, especially as the summer comes, gets a little warmer out. But this one was a great one. This one was one I will never forget, and I think it's worth sharing. And if you don't mind my rambling and talking about the crazy things that have happened in my life, look, the pinstriping on that. Pinstriping was such a big thing back then. I know Jim Skinner was a pinstriper. And Jim, I'm thinking of you as I'm looking at all these cars, and I always think when you see a thing like this and it says, this guy did this guy did that, this guy did this guy. I would love to, if I did a car, put out the post and just say, I did it all. Of course, that's pretty unrealistic, but but the truth is that would float my boat. Oh, and these engines all chromed up. Oh my God, I wish there was a place not far from my house where you could go down and get some chrome plating done reasonably. They always want to send the stuff to Mexico or something, but they try to get it back. And then sometimes the stuff doesn't come back at all. Oh, the Judge, I remember that. Oh man. And boy, the memories you have at a car show, it's, even if you go every week like some people do, or if you go randomly like I do, there's always something that you say, wow, wow, that was really a part of my life, and you remember it, and it brings back memories. And whether it's a vet you never owned, or a Camaro, or your friends had that car, or you had it, or oh man, there's just memories within memories. And I never come home from a car show sorry that I spent a couple hours down there. Now I'm old enough to remember a time before the internet, and actually before YouTube, where if car shows were really word of mouth, and you had to mail things that there was going to be a car show somewhere, or and you had to get an envelope. And now what a wonderful thing it is to have the internet, to have an example is when the car show is on, you can just look up Whiskey Cafe and there'll be the next car show posted. Or the ones that are similar to that, they all get together, they have an organization. And it just makes it so convenient, where years and years ago, a car show, you had to find out about it from somebody, and then you had to make a phone call. And can you imagine? I know younger people won't believe this, but you actually had to pay to make a phone call years ago. You had to put a quarter in the phone or whatever. Pretty funny. Oh my God, look at this. Oh, this looks beautiful. Gurney Eagle. Beautiful headers. I remember looking at the paint on this. Now, for anybody that doesn't know about paint, when you paint something black, it's got to be perfect. Black is the shows every mistake, every scratch, every bug. So the saying as a painter is, when you paint something black, it better be black. It better be perfect. If you paint it white, you can get away with a lot. Black, you're not going to get away with anything. You could see, look at the black in the trunk. Look at how beautiful that paint is. Look, you can see my reflection. Handsome dude, huh? Oh, look at this. Oh, this is just beautiful. The headers bring back a memory of just look at it. Look at the lettering. Now, that's the kind of lettering that I think Jim Skinner was really good at. And oh man. Oh, look at the engine. Oh God. That has the look of somebody made a commitment to excellence. Every bolt looks polished. Look at a finish on those headers even. Sometimes you see a pair of headers, it's kind of rusty and rotted and everything. Those look like somebody stayed up and polished them the night before the car show. Actually, it looks like they're aluminum, or they glass beaded or something. I don't know, but I didn't know enough about it. But I remember talking to the guy, and but I don't remember what he said about it. But I remember the headers were one of the things, and that is some beautiful engine bay. Oh my God, look at that. Memories. And when we were at the drag races, I remember this. Now, I hadn't been to the drag races in many, many, many years. And I remember the first thing, I looked around and I said, my God, this is like I'm 20 years old again. I remember the smell, the sound, the cars with no mufflers, the open headers, the smell of when you go by at unburnt gas. It was a wonderful thing. A car show does the same thing visually that a drag race does with the sight and the smell and the feel and the sound. But you wish in a perfect world what would happen is that you could live a life where you had time, energy, and money to do it all. But unfortunately, not many of us fit in. We're not Jay Leno, that's for sure. But there are some people that really are committed to excellence. This car happens to be one of the ones that I just spent a lot of time looking at the detailing, and I know how long, because I've done it, how long it takes to bring something up to that level of just cleanliness and polish, and then to get it right, that it's black. I have a black motorcycle that's painted with Bentley black. You had better not be the tiniest scratch, the tiniest bug Everything shows on black. Look at the hood on that. Look at that. Is that beautiful? And all of the things, what happens too, a lot of times I see a car like this and I think it's like it's not finished. But then the reality is it isn't finished, because a work of art like this, you go and replace things and you upgrade things. You're constantly working on it. I don't think, and I'm not saying, that this car is that way, but that anybody ever feels like they're finished. There's always something to polish, always something to detail, always something maybe you want to upgrade or change or reupholster or redo this or that or repolish. I know that's how I am with the old motorcycles. Every year over the winter, I make a list of the things I want to do. I want to paint this, I want to upgrade that, I want to change that, and it gives me something to do in the winter. But a car like this is much more of a commitment by far. Just in the fact there's just a lot more things to do, a lot more things to polish. I'm looking at that and I'm saying somebody really did a nice job on that. Well, that is something. I just look at it and I'm just blown away. And most of the time when I'm at a car show, there'll be one or two cars or maybe a few more that'll just captivate me, and I look at them and I'm pretending I'm the judge in a car show, and I'm looking for something I can say, aha, there's a rusty bolt. Ah, that isn't polished enough, or something. And I looked at this car for quite a while. If you only knew. And I was looking at it, and the fact that it was black like that, I just couldn't stop looking at it. And I don't know if these people that they look at it the same as I do, or through the lens that I look at it as a painter. But if you paint a car black, boy oh boy, and the guy looking at it knows how critical it is to have black perfect. Somebody did that body work, really knew what they were doing. And now I don't know. You see, I don't know. Maybe this car is a street rod. Look at a plate. Maybe this is a car that's sponsored, or it's a professionally made car, or it could be that the guy did the whole thing himself. I don't really remember. But all I know is I was looking at it for a long time and I was really impressed. In my way of thinking of things, this is the guy I would have voted for best in show. And I thought I'd put a couple extra minutes of it on the end of the video. We're coming up near the end of the video. I can just, if anybody is still watching and still enjoying it, hey, please take a few minutes and hit the like button, because I really put my heart and soul into this channel that I have. It's again, eclectic things, but car shows are part of it, and motorcycles, of course, are the biggest part. And I recognize when somebody makes a commitment to something excellent, I think they deserve my respect, and they deserve a pat on the back. And this is, in every way I could mention it, every way I can look at it, this is something that to me is a work of art. And hey, my friend Scott out west is doing up a black and gold Ninja right now. I hope he's using Bentley black. And looking at that paint on the hood will inspire him to make it perfect. Scott, make it perfect. I know you can. Scott has a 64 Ford and in his collection. Anyway, and I don't know if he's still working on it or if he's done and he's moved on. Anyway, I will end the video by saying congratulations to the owner of this vehicle. You have impressed me like I haven't been impressed in a long time. And now we're at the end of the video, and I want to thank everybody for listening to my stories. I wish I could put the soundtrack on, but the loud music, it's really not happening. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. And 409 Chevys, go play that music, Beach Boys music. Just the word 409 brings back great memories. And thanks everybody for putting up with me and for watching this video.